down and had to attack helicopters one at a time.
What is up, guys? Fadeaway82 coming at you with a video taking a look at PVE concepts in Rust. What you're watching here is footage of the current PVE threat in the game, which is an attack chopper or attack helicopter. This is going to be intermixed with footage of various PVE concepts that have been in existence throughout Rust development. So some of this you'll likely never see in the game, but there's a strong chance you'll see some of it in the game in 2016. So let's start from the beginning. If you started playing Rust when it first came out in 2013, the old version of Rust, which is referred to as Legacy, you probably remember a PVE threat. If you started playing it when it first came out, you'll likely remember the zombies, or if you started playing Rust Legacy a little bit later, you'll likely remember the rad bears or rad wolves. And we're seeing more artwork in the line with the radiated animals. They were put in the game to differentiate Rust from zombie-themed competitors, and we see the concept artwork leaning more towards going in that direction. In last week's most recent devlog, we saw a radiated boar here, which we're able to rotate and take a closer look at. The fact that it's modeled in the 3D space here leads me to believe it's closer to reality than initially would be thought if we just looked at that concept artwork. We've seen this in the game before, so it's safe to say that the rad animals are probably a sure thing, and we'll see the first versions of them likely in the second part of 2016. The other thing that we've been seeing more of in the game is artwork that's themed around a military vibe to it that feels slightly futuristic but close to the modern era. And that's something that we've been seeing with the drone artwork that came out, and that's been persisting through different devlogs, and then also with the attack chopper, which was added into the game. That's definitely a military-themed PvE threat. That is a helicopter that's in existence right now. That's nothing that's hard to imagine. That is absolutely something straight out of reality. But we've seen some drones that look a little more futuristic, and we've saw this scientist NPC threat put in a devlog, which was described as an NPC threat, but not necessarily PvE. So it was something that could be passive. It could be a group of scientists roaming the landscape, testing something. We don't know what they're testing or why they're there. We don't even really know if they're human, but if provoked, they might attack us and they might be able to be harvested for resources. But the drones, the scientist NPC threat, and the communication that was just shown in that image, which was by one of the developers, Helk, who made the helicopter, leads us to believe that Rust is going to be moving in line with this military theme to it, and also with this theme of the radiated animals and that radiated landscape. Because even the scientist PvE threat has that radiation aspect to it, and then the PvE artwork that we're seeing with the boar in the most recent devlog also is affected by radiation. So we saw some wild concept artwork on the old Trello board of these creatures that were these deformed vegetables and these worms, and the caretaker, which was, I believe, something from the community, not a dev-created piece of concept artwork. That stuff likely, probably won't come into reality, at least in the near future, but we're going to be seeing, I think, more of the radiated animals, especially for the early to mid-game. Something like a radiated boar would be a perfect thing for early game threat, and then maybe the bears being a larger animal for later early game to mid game. So there's different ways that these PvE elements can be leveraged. Again, Rust is always going to be a PvP game at its core. Players are always going to be those apex predators, and what they're going to be who you fear the most. The PvE, I think, will be something that's going to be very important to keep Rust staying fresh, because on off server times, off peak times, it's really important to have things to do, but it also keeps players on their toes at all times, just having another threat out there to be aware of. And Rust is all about this harsh landscape, so I think that PvE is going to be necessary to keep it feeling as though you're vulnerable at all times. Let me know, guys, what you think. What do you think of the concept artwork here? What do you think works for Rust or doesn't work for Rust? What direction do you think it should go in or want it to go in? And let's have a dialogue about that, and let's look forward to experiencing this together when PvE hits in 2016. I'm stoked for it. I don't think we'll be seeing the mythical creatures here like this chicken or the stag that looks as though it's supernatural, or even the caretaker. I really don't think we'll be seeing that, but it's grand to see that concept artwork, and it's great to imagine Rust in these different realities. Only the developers know where it's going, but they have some sort of a plan, and it'll be an interesting ride, and we'll all get to experience it for the first time. Fadeaway82, peace.